Power in East Africa does not only move through elections, armies, or constitutions, it also travels through bloodlines. Across the region from Uganda to Rwanda, Kenya and Ethiopia, a new political class is quietly rising: the children of presidents. Unlike classic monarchies, these states remain republics on paper. Yet in practice, influence flows through family proximity to power. These sons and daughters are not merely symbolic heirs. They hold military commands, control strategy offices, shape national messaging, and sometimes act as unofficial diplomats. Their strength does not come from votes, it comes from access. Think of modern politics as a chessboard. The president is the king, but survival depends on protecting the squares around him. These children occupy those squares. They are trusted where ministers are temporary and generals are replaceable. To understand their power is to understand how modern African authority reproduces itself without formally becoming a dynasty. 10. Natasha Karugire. Natasha Karugire, daughter of Yoweri Museveni, represents soft power, the kind that rarely appears threatening but shapes perception. Officially, she has worked as a private presidential assistant managing domestic affairs at State House. Unofficially, she acts as a cultural translator between the presidency and elite society. Her authority comes from proximity rather than position. Ministers brief the president for decisions. Natasha filters environments around him. In political systems centered on one individual, controlling access is power. She is comparable to a royal chamberlain in medieval courts, not commanding armies, but deciding who speaks to the king and in what tone. Her background in fashion, writing, and film also matters. Authoritarian systems often struggle with image abroad. She helps modernize it. She softens the presidency's edges, making it relatable without weakening its authority. 9. Patience Ruabwogo. Patience Ruabwogo exercises a different form of influence: spiritual legitimacy. As a prominent pastor, she speaks to moral authority rather than state authority. In countries where religion intersects with governance, moral approval stabilizes political rule. Her sermons often align with national direction, reinforcing obedience through belief rather than law. If soldiers enforce power physically, religious leaders make it emotionally acceptable. She functions like an ideological bridge. Governments survive not only on coercion but on acceptance. People must feel leadership is divinely permitted. By occupying that space, she converts political loyalty into moral duty. Her marriage to a senior presidential advisor strengthens that network, merging faith, policy, and family influence. 8. Million Abiy. Million Abiy, associated with Abiy Ahmed, illustrates symbolic succession politics. Although young, his public appearances in national programs like environmental campaigns create recognition early. Why does this matter? Political legitimacy depends on familiarity. Citizens resist unknown rulers, but tolerate familiar names. By presenting a child within national initiatives, leadership plants continuity in the public imagination years before any transition. It mirrors corporate branding. Companies introduce future CEOs early, so investors associate stability with continuity. The same psychology applies in governance. Million's power is therefore anticipatory. He holds no office, commands no force, signs no decree, yet the narrative of leadership continuity forms around him. The state becomes a family story citizens already recognize. 7. Ange Kagame. Ange Kagame, daughter of Paul Kagame, occupies a strategic policy role inside the presidency. Unlike symbolic heirs, she participates directly in governance design. Her influence resembles a chief strategist rather than a ceremonial relative. By helping craft policy narratives and international messaging, she shapes how the government explains itself to the world. In modern geopolitics, perception can determine aid, investment, and diplomatic pressure. Imagine a military victory. Without international acceptance, it creates isolation. Her role prevents that isolation by aligning national decisions with global language, development, reform, modernization. She acts as a stabilizing intellectual center around executive authority. Ministers implement policies, strategists justify them. Justification often matters more because it determines international tolerance. Therefore, her power lies in narrative control. She does not enforce power but protects it from external backlash. In today's interconnected world, narrative is a defensive shield stronger than borders. 6. Ian Kagame. Ian Kagame operates within the military sphere through the Rwanda Defense Force. Unlike civilian-positioned relatives, his authority emerges from command credibility. Military institutions prioritize loyalty and discipline. When a leader's child trains and serves inside elite protection units, he becomes a trust anchor between the presidency and armed forces. Officers trust him because he shares blood with the commander-in-chief. The president trusts him because loyalty is guaranteed. This dual trust is rare. Generals may gain ambition. Relatives rarely stage coups. That makes such figures stabilizers inside security structures. His role can be compared to imperial guard commanders in historical empires, protectors not just of territory but of regime continuity. They ensure that the army remains aligned with leadership rather than political factions. 5. Ivan Kagame. Ivan Kagame holds influence through economic governance, participating in national development strategy boards. Economic power differs from military or ideological authority. Whoever shapes investment priorities shapes the country's future elite class. By guiding development planning, he indirectly determines which sectors grow, which entrepreneurs prosper, and which international partners gain access. In political systems, business elites eventually become political actors. Controlling economic direction, therefore, shapes future politics. It is long-range influence rather than immediate command. Compare it to irrigation in agriculture. The farmer who controls water decides which fields flourish. Ivan's position functions similarly, directing opportunity flows across society. 4. Brian Kagame. Brian Kagame, trained at Sandhurst and commissioned into the Rwanda Defense Force, represents professionalized legitimacy. Education abroad gives credibility beyond family ties. It signals competence, not just inheritance. This matters because dynastic politics risks appearing undeserved. Professional training counters that perception. He embodies a hybrid model: hereditary trust plus institutional qualification. Officers respect him as a trained peer, while leadership trusts him as family. That combination prevents resentment within ranks. Historically, succession crises often start when armies reject heirs as unqualified. Professional grooming prevents that. It prepares acceptance before promotion ever happens. Brian's power is therefore future readiness. Even without senior command today, the military is psychologically prepared to follow him tomorrow. 3. Charlene Ruto. Charlene Ruto, daughter of William Ruto, operates in public diplomacy. She undertakes nationwide tours and policy advocacy roles, resembling an auxiliary first lady. Her influence lies in social mobilization. Governments struggle to directly reach youth and civic groups without appearing political. A presidential child bypasses that. Resistance engagement feels personal rather than institutional. She acts as a communication amplifier. Policies introduced by ministries become relatable when explained through informal platforms. 1. Muhoozi Kainerugaba. Muhoozi Kainerugaba commands the Special Forces Command, and is widely seen as the political heir of his father. Unlike other presidential children, his influence combines every dimension: military control, public presence, and political signaling. Commanding elite troops gives immediate enforcement capacity. Public statements test reactions to succession. Combined, they form practical preparation for leadership. If previous figures represent soft power, symbolic power, or structural power, Muhuzi represents operational power, the ability to act instantly. Historically, transitions often depend on who controls the palace guard. By leading it, he reduces uncertainty about loyalty during future change. That certainty itself discourages rivals. His authority, therefore, comes from capability plus inevitability. People adapt to power they believe will last. Muhuzi's position creates that perception. In political systems, perceived future rulers often become real rulers before the official transition occurs.